Lecture 13. Eternal Life. In this lecture we will examine whether children can understand that the time of human life is limited. We will then carry out a thought experiment in which a child is offered to live forever and see how the child represents his or her eternal life. The aims of this dialogue were to establish at what age and how children become aware of first, the eternal need of a human individual to overcome the time limits of his or her individual life, and second, the dialectical relationships between the change that a human individual undergoes throughout life and the feeling of personal identity that is preserved despite the change. Question 1. Tell me, who lives longer, a human being or a butterfly? Question 2. Do you think that all living creatures die, or are there some that live forever? Question 3. And what do people die from? Question 4. And what about you? Would you like to live for a long time? Question 5. And if a wizard came to you and offered to make you immortal, so that you would live forever and never die, would you agree or not? Why? Question 6. And what about other people? Would they agree to become immortal? Would some of the people refuse? Question 7. If you agree to become immortal, who would you like to be? A child as you are now, an adult person, or an old person? Why? Question 8. What would you do during this endless life? Question 9. And when you become an adult person, will this person be you or a person different from you? Question 10. And what will change in you when you become an adult person? What will stay the same? Results on questions 1 to 5. Most preschoolers and all school children were convinced that all living creatures, including man, were mortal. Almost all preschoolers and about a half of the older children expressed the desire to be immortal. The main reason for this desire was the fear to die. However, a number of children didn't want immortality. Most of these children saw the negative consequences of being immortal. For instance, one child says, "It is now that I want very much to live, but the moment will come when it will be indifferent to you. It's not that you will be bored with life, but the life won't be interesting anymore for you." Most children who wanted to live forever thought being a young adult would be preferable. Living immortal life as a young adult was seen to provide many opportunities for all sorts of professional activities. For instance, the children say, "I'd like to be an adult and a sailor by profession," or "I'd like to be an adult and to buy a car," or "I'd work on the factory as my father." As this graph shows, the majority of the children thought that when they become adults, they would keep the feeling of their personal identity. Children aged 5 to 7 years saw their physical features, such as the color of the eyes or hair, as the keepers of their personal identity. But older children linked their personal identity to their psychological qualities, such as their feelings, autobiographical memories, or character traits. We can therefore conclude, most of the children view eternal life not as a passive rest, but as a bunch of interesting activities, including work and play. The desire to always be a young adult was also common to all of the age groups. In contrast, the feature that children viewed as a keeper of their identity throughout growth varied across ages. While preschoolers saw constancy of their physical features as something that conserves their personal identity throughout life, the older children began to associate conservation of their personal identity in time with their psychological characteristics.